Incorporated, Michael Yu.
Distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So today I'm coming here to introduce you a bit about New Oriental and a bit about me and a bit about education. I think most of you or all of you here are doing something for education. But education is one of the most difficult things to define, Like if we say hospital is a place like to cure people's disease, or medicine is for the goodness, for the health of the people. But when we are talking about education, what are we talking about? When we look into the dictionary, we'll find that the definition is really very vague. Education is the process of being educated. And then when we find what is called being educated is the process of education. So what does that mean? So human beings has making great progress. From Aristotle's time, he insisted that the earth is the center of the universe. And then when Copernicus came into being, he said that the sun is the center of the universe. And then we come to the natural law of Newton. And then we come to the theory of relativity by Einstein. So every step of the way, we are making progress. We are understanding this world more and more. But coming back to us, today, this world is still full of ignorance, stupidity. We are not making much more progress in humanity as a human being. Sometimes we are still insist some wrong ideas in our mind. So what is our education about? We have been doing education for more than almost 3,000 years. Like about more than 2,000 years ago, we already have those wise people, like Plato, like Aristotle, like Confucius, like Buddha, like Jesus. A lot of so wise people in this world. But today, we are still talking about education. We are still trying to understand what we can do for us, what we can do for our generations. How can we make this world a better place to live in? How can we, at most, understand each other, but not killing each other? That's what we want to do. For me, I want to use me as an example because I was born in the countryside, in the rural area of China. My parents are illiterate. That means they cannot read, they cannot write. This is my mother. Even though my mother cannot read, she is illiterate, but she can serve as my teacher. So come to the definition of education is that if a parent and a teacher want their kids or students to become more, to have a better future, or to become more enlightened, and to have more knowledge, especially to become more humane in their life, and want to do good things not only for themselves, but also for others, for this world, for the society. So I think this is what education means to me, especially for my family. So, all my family, generations by generations, they were living a peasant life. Peasant is not a farmer. A farmer owns a great piece of land. But a peasant means he or she only worked on a very small piece of land, barely can make enough living resources, So what my mother wants me to do is that she does not want me to become another peasant, always living and toiling on a piece of land with backbreaking hardships. So what my mother set up a goal for me is that I should become a teacher. In her mind, a teacher is something like the teacher in the village, still kind of nearby a peasant, but you don't have to go to the field to do a hard job. Because a teacher in Chinese tradition is usually very much respected by those peoples in the village. So those villagers will help the teachers to do his farm work and to sometimes even to give food for him to eat. And most of all, because he got lots of respect from all the people around. So what my mother wants me to do is to become a teacher. So since she wants me to become a teacher, then what I have to do, or I had to do at that time, is to study more. So from my memory, when I was 4 or 5 years old, I never got any toy. My mother never bought me any toy. I have toys, but was made by my father, who was a carpenter, A carpenter can make lots of toys. So when we have some, small money, then my mother will buy books for me, from the comic books to real books. So since when I was 5 years old, I started to read books, but I didn't know any characters. Chinese characters are very difficult to understand. But very fortunately, I have a sister who is 5 years older than I am. When I was 5 years old, she was already in grade 3. So every time after school, she come to read those comic books or storybooks to me. Little by little, after 1 year or so, I began to learn lots of Chinese characters, and I started to read Chinese books by myself, even before I went to grade 1. So by grade 2, I was able to read Chinese classical books, including like the Water Margin. It was one of the most famous classical books in China, written in half modern Chinese, half ancient Chinese. So from that point on, I became the only boy in my village who can read and who loved to read, and every day spend time reading. From that time on, I began to love studying. And so through all my primary school and middle school, I'm the person who read most all over that kind of community around me. And I began to like to go to school. Schooling becomes one of my most important things in my life. And even though my mathematics is not good, because there's no one who can teach me mathematics in my home, because my parents, they are illiterate. But still, I continued my schooling until middle school. The problem for me is that after middle school, I was forbidden from going to high school, because there was a policy at that time in China. In one family, there was only one person who can go to high school. My sister already went to high school. So I didn't have the chance to go to high school. So I stayed at home doing farm work for half a year. Then in China, the Cultural Revolution finished at that year. Then some of these people, some of my friends in the village, actually they didn't like study at all. They want to quit from high school, because after that period of time, everybody begins to understand that when you go to high school, it's not good for playing. It's good for studying. For study, then you have the chance to take the national entrance examination and then go to university. So the one girl in my village quit from high school because she just couldn't follow up. Then my mother, doing every effort to talk to the government officials to let me go to the high school. So I just went to high school already 1 year after my classmates, my middle school classmates. So I stayed in high school only 1 year and a half. When I went to high school, I began to realize that going to the university is my only destination, because including my parents and me, I don't want to stay in the countryside for all over my life. So I studied hard, but only 1 year and a half high school life, and because I'm in the countryside, at the same time, I have to do a farming job. Then I failed for the first year to take the national entrance examination for universities, and I failed again the second year. And then I continued. I talked to my mother. I said, hey, Mom, can you not let me do farm work this year? I want to spend all my time studying. I want to go to some training school so that I can study more. My mother agreed. So I went to one of the training schools, which is run by my high school, and then stayed there for 10 months. Then I took the third national entrance examination, and I got the highest scores for almost every subject in that area. Yeah. And I got enrolled by the best university in China, which is called Peking University, which is equal to Harvard University in the United States, you know. So that's my family education. So come to the conclusion is like this. You know, an education is not somebody who is smarter than you who's teaching you. Education is not a professor telling you knowledge he already knows. Education, a real educator even can be somebody who's illiterate, like my mother, like my father. They cannot read, they cannot write. But they teach you something that you should go beyond yourself. Go beyond your vision of this world. Go beyond of your limitation. And go beyond your natural ability. And you have new talents because education, you can help others. And, you know, to try to push you, to let you have your potential to create and to become more understanding about this world. And to become open-minded. To let yourself go out of your way to go to this world, to challenge yourself, and to become more tolerant, to go walk far away from ignorance. So this is a good thing when I went to Peking University, because studying at Peking University is a turning point for me. You know, Peking University is very famous in China for free thinking, for independent thinking, and for free spirit. Which is not totally like in the United States. Because in the United States, every university, everywhere, every student, for every high school student and university, you can think whatever you like, you can speak out whatever you like, and you can write whatever you like, but it's not in China. Fortunately for me, for those 10 years, I stayed in Peking University, 5 years as a student and 6 years as a teacher, actually. For those 10 years in China, from 1980, that year I went to Peking University, until I came out from Peking University, which is 1991. For those 10 years in China, we have this period, which is called liberation period. Liberation of thoughts, liberation of ideas period. For those 10 years period, that means Chinese university students almost can speak whatever you like to speak. You can challenge the authority. You can challenge the ideologies of the whole country, and you can speak out whatever you want to say. So within my time in Peking University, I really learned what is called independent thinking, what is called independent personality, what is called a free mind and a free spirit. So this becomes a new me. Because before that, I only think education, when you go to university, is that you just study your major. If you study English literature, then you study English literature. If you study like mathematics, you study mathematics. But I think education later, I think it's far beyond that. It's far beyond your major, far beyond your examinations, and far beyond what the teacher is talking to you. It's all about how you come back to yourself, and how you can really become enlightened about this world. And how can you create your own thinking and the discussion about this world? So that's what Peking University gave me. So except the academic knowledges I get from Peking University, I did several things at Peking University. First thing is that I read lots of books. Because when I was in high school, when I was a child, those books are very small books. Those books are designated by the government. So there's no real thoughts, no real philosophical ideas in those books. Especially there's no real contradictory or objections of some kind of thoughts in those books. But since when I was in Peking University, the library of Peking University is one of the biggest libraries in China. So I can walk freely into the library and take whatever books I want to read and discuss whatever books I want to discuss with my roommates and my classmates. So we argued and we debate, and while arguing and debating, we become more mature in our thoughts, in our outlook, the world outlook, the point of view about this world. This is the one thing. I read more books. I got ill when I was in junior, and then I stayed in the hospital for 1 year. During the 1 year in the hospital, I almost read a book every day. So altogether, for 5 years in university, I read almost 1,000 books. So that gives lots of ideas, new things. Go beyond China, go beyond the government, and even go beyond all the people's thoughts about me. I can look into things from very different perspectives. And the second thing is that in Peking University, I made lots of friends. Friends from my classmates, friends from other majors, and friends from professors. So these people also give me lots of new ideas. The good thing is that when I created the Oriental company doing education, I invited some of these friends coming back from the United States or from other countries to me to become partners of my company. And all us together, we bring the Oriental into New York Stock Exchange IPO. So when you have good friends, especially good friends who can help you not only in your thoughts, not only in your life, but also in your enterprises. That's one of the most great things happening in this world. And there was once a movie, like 5 years ago, filmed in China, which is called China Partners, which talked the stories about me and my partners, my university life, and how we tried our best to make something successful. So that's the second thing I have in this world. And there's a third thing I really have advantage in university. That is because my major is English. That means I'm studying English all the time. From a boy from the countryside, didn't know anything about English, then get enrolled by English major from Peking University. And then I started to really learn English, especially reading. So after 1 or 2 years studying English in Peking University, I can study to read English originals. Those originals that sometimes those books cannot be translated into Chinese because of ideological reasons in China. That means if we are waiting for the books to be translated into Chinese, you have to wait a period of time. And some of the ideas were deleted by publishers. But when you are reading originals, you can read the original ideas, the original language. So that means you have the advantage to get more knowledge, especially more wisdom, or more perspectives about this world. So that's what I learned in Peking University. So good friends, good books, English language become 3 main advantages that I have in Peking University. So there is a saying that you should always stay with goodness. You should always stay with good friends. I once read a sentence by Warren Buffett. He said like this: "It's better to hang out with people better than you, pick out associates whose behavior is better than yours, and you drift in that directions." So going to university is my own choice. It's my pursuit. But when I was in the university, I drifted to the directions of my friends, to the directions of those good books and good thoughts, and to the directions of those ideas from original English works, So that's so important. So it's just to go beyond. Go beyond the original you. Go beyond the original, ideas. Because, in this world, most of the people, they just stay as they are. They never try to go beyond themselves. So by doing this, after graduation from Peking University, I stayed in Peking University, was chosen as one of the 5 students, stay continuously in the university, becomes a teaching assistant, teaching English to the first-year student. The reason I can teach English in Peking University as just an undergraduate is because at just that year, Chinese government decided every university student has to study English and pass kind of examinations, which is called Band 4 and Band 6. So every student has to study English, so no matter who can teach English, you can stay in the university, then teach students all over this university. So I stayed for another 6 years teaching, but the good thing is that I still have lots of time reading in the library because you only have to teach 8 hours a week. And then I become close friends with most of the professors in my department. That is also an advantage because when you were a student, it's very difficult for you to walk into the professor's home to talk or discuss something with him. But if you, as a colleague, it becomes much easier. But maybe like after 3 or 4 years, when I was a teaching assistant in Peking University, something changed. Lots of my friends, even my students, they began to take TOEFL and the GRE, and they want to come to United States to study. At that time, United States universities offered lots of scholarships to Chinese students. So I think this is maybe my way. I also myself should, go to United States to study. So I also took TOEFL and the GRE, tried my best, and there are several universities giving me admission, but none of the university gave me any scholarships. At that time, my salary is like 120 Chinese yuan a month, which is equal to $20. So I never have the financial, support from myself. That's the reason why I went out to teach outside in training schools. Because when I was teaching training schools, every month I can make more money. So my idea is that I should save enough money from teaching so that I can support myself to study in the United States University. But by doing this, it gives me another opportunity, another side of life. When I was teaching in some training schools, I see this industry is so prosperous in China. Then I start thinking, if I open my own school, if I open my own classes, then I can make as much more money than I doing this as a teacher. So I studied my own class while I was still a Peking University assistant. But Peking University was so unhappy about my studying classes outside. They gave me a warning. They gave me a punishment. And this put me in the kind of this very disadvantageous, stage. Then after that, I resigned from Peking University because since I get punished by the university, I think I stay in the university is not a good thing. It's not a good way. So I walked out of Peking University, studied a school which is called New Oriental. By doing New Oriental for 25 years, I have nowadays, New Oriental is a big education company with a group of teachers about we have about 35,000 teachers teaching in New Oriental today. So because I have lots of experiences with students, I have been myself a teacher for more than 20 years. So I'm always thinking about what is good teacher, because education is all about good teachers, actually. So I think there's 5 aspects of good teachers. One is that first is good teachers should inspire students with the enthusiasm to pursue knowledge and the truth. I believe teachers should teach students knowledge and the truth, not just to help them pass examinations, not just for students to remember some knowledge points so that they can get a diploma from university. So I think good teacher, no matter from primary to university, the most important thing for a teacher to do is to instill students with a passion to pursue the real knowledge and the truth of this world. Second, I think a good teacher should be able to teach and discuss knowledge in a positive language that stimulates students to think. If a teacher is indifferent to the teaching contents and to the student's mind, students are very unlikely to participate actively. Knowledge can be more meaningful when you teach in a positive way to students, and in a positive way to stimulate thinking from students. And the third, a good teacher pays great attention to the all-round development of students. Many teachers are one-dimensional in practice, only looking whether students have solved the problems in their classroom, whether students have learned the knowledge points, performed well in examinations. But I believe, in addition to these, it's more important for teachers to care about the development of students' personality, their well-being and morality, and their free thinking. Teachers should set examples to students in addition to provide them with advice. I also believe that teaching of knowledge must be based on wisdom. Teaching of knowledge is not to remember the knowledge, but to internalize knowledge into part of students' pursuit of life and career, into their wisdom. Fourth, good teachers should encourage students to chase their dreams in the future. A good teacher must always help students look into the future. Teachers should cultivate the students the spirit to do their best to pursue their dreams in the face of difficulties. Encourage them to not give up, just like my mother always encouraged me not give up. Empower them with perseverance and resilience. Because when we look into the beautiful things in the future, the sufferings and the difficulties in front of our eyes no longer makes us desperate, looking for the meaning of life, looking for the meaning of future. That's what the teacher should instill into students. And the fifth, a good teacher should also be an expert in family education. Like, I have a very good family education. Not only my mother asked me to read, but my mother, my father, my parents, they have really kindness, hospitality, willingness to help others. All these are become some part of my personality. And their perseverance in front of difficulties also becomes my perseverance when I'm facing all the adversities in my life. So family education is really important. So teachers should be able to fully communicate with parents. Teachers can greatly facilitate a child's growth in the right direction if they are on the same wavelength with parents in the child's education. That's very important. I think the above 5 points are my summary about good teachers, since I have been communicating with my teachers for almost more than 20 years. So, New Oriental, I think most of you have already heard about it. We are nowadays one of the biggest education companies in China. Today, our business range is very wide. We start from kindergarten, like K-12 education, real schools, and then K-12 after tutoring, after school tutoring education. We have overseas and domestic test preparations, and then we have book publishing, and we have online education, which I just took online education to get listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange last week, actually. So we have lots of business. But for all these business, what we want to do is that we are helping students. Our education range becomes wider and wider, and including more and more people into it. From the very beginning, our slogan or our mission is like the bridge for students to go overseas to study, and the rainbow to attract the students to come back to China to do their own business. Because from the very beginning, we only do overseas preparations for students. Then later, we included all English learning from like childhood to university students. So we changed our mission to like New Oriental is a place for you to study English. Then the third slogan or mission we have is that we want the students to come to New Oriental to realize their different dreams, because we have enlarged our business scope into not only teaching English, but teaching all other languages, and then teaching Chinese language, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and so on, to prepare students not only to come to United States to study, but also prepare students to study in Chinese universities. So but today, when we come to the core of education, we have another mission. That is, we help students to own the ability of lifelong learning, global vision, independent personality, and a social responsibility. I think these 4 aspects will be always our mission, because if you are helping anybody to have the ability to have a lifelong learning ability, to have global vision, or have an independent personality, or have social responsibility, then that's the whole scope of education, I think. Education is about, first, to help yourself survive, become enlightened. Second, to help your family and your friends. And the third, help your students. And then, finally, help the society and this world. So what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I have 4 things I'm going to do. One is that I want to contribute to the so-called holistic education, which is a whole person education. That means not only giving students knowledge, but also giving students personality, also give students free thinking ability, give students the potentiality to go beyond himself, go beyond his vision today, and go beyond whatever he already knows. That's what I want to do in my life, because every year, New Orleans will enroll more than 3 million students studying in our system. And the second to do is to family education, what I already emphasized. Because from my own story, I know family education is one of the most important education in this world. If the parents are really smart and wise, then we can expect their kids to be smart and wise. So if the parents understand this world, then their kids, mostly will be a nice guy. And the third I'm going to do, because the technology has come in to change education a lot. With the technology coming, internet, AI, artificial intelligence, big data, computing, cloud, the education area has been changed so much. So the third thing I'm going to do is that to use technology combined with education to see whether we can offer more effective and efficient ways of studying for students and for ourselves. And most important of all, fourth, what I'm going to do is that I hope to do more to help children in Chinese rural areas and to get a better education. So one of my things I'm going to do this year is that I'm going to return to a rural high school to become an honorary principal or head of school. That means I will go to that kind of school. Most of the students will never get enrolled by university because the low quality education there. So I want to be there to become the head of school, of course honorarily, and to use some of the best teachers from New Orleans to see within 3 years of efforts whether I can send these rural kids, which they have no hope actually, to go to some of the best universities in China to see whether they can change their destiny like I have changed when I was a child. I think education, that's all about education. Education is to change people's life, to become better. So, in addition to satisfying ourselves with food and clothing, in addition to caring for our own family members and friends, we all aspire, everybody here, to do something good for human development and the social progress. That's exactly what New Orleans is doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly every one of you here is doing. So we want to actually look forward to working together with other educational institutions, your institution and the colleagues, for the rest of the world to create a better education for this world. I often say, economy is for today, politics is only for politicians, but only education is for the future of mankind. Let's try our best. Another Oriental slogan is that a better you, a big world. Let's become a better you, and then we can lead our kids, our students, to go into a bigger, brighter world. Thank you.